So this is 5 things that should be added to the Fallout 4 Next Gen update. So first one, settler level increase / armor and weapons. So now there is already a mod or a couple mods out there that do this, but essentially this settlers levels are like set to level, I think max is, or just in general set to level 3 to 5. Now obviously when you're later on in the game, if you've got like a level 100 raider versus a level 5 settler, they're not going to make it. No matter how good of weapons or armor you give them, they're not going to, the elixir are not going to survive. Which is a pain, because obviously if you've got a settlement of like 30 odd settlers and you got like 5 raiders come up to attack your settlement, they realistically should be able to defend themselves. And for the weapons and armor, obviously allow them to actually spawn with actual armor instead of just normal clothing. There is a mod that does that. Something like that would be great to be added into obviously the base game, because obviously it is annoying to try and actually have to sort of arm your settlers a bit more, even if they came in with only like a couple bits of leather, even like a leather chest plate or something. That'd be great, just as a little bit more protection would be amazing for them. And obviously the better weapons, because it's a pain, obviously like that they'll come out, come in with like pipe pistols. It does make sense, especially later on in the game, that your settlement, if it's built up better and sort of with more things to do there and a safer and sort of more sustainable settlement, it would make sense that stuff like mercenaries would come and essentially settle down at your settlement. So that's essentially why they really should add something like that, or at the very bare minimum increase the level, settlers level to max the players, because that would help tremendously with base defense. So next one is unique weapons and armor. Now, I don't know all of them, but I know we've got like the Deliverer, the Junk Jet, and Adam's Judgment. Now, I wouldn't count the Shish Kebab as one, because I have seen raiders, or the fire raiders, what they're called, the Forged, they can spawn with them, so they're not exactly unique. And I know there are obviously some named weapons, but they still have the legendary effects that other weapons have. So yeah, I'd say essentially more, because there obviously are a couple, but in generally they need to add more unique weapons and armor. They probably won't, but there is hope. Next one is really useful one. This is probably one of the most useful one, quite frankly, would be refundable perks. Pretty simple, explained itself. Obviously, if you've got a perk, like if you're trying to do a bloodied build and you've got one of those, if you've maxed out the perks that regenerate health and radiation, you're not going to really be able to do a bloodied build. So that's sort of a situation like that. Or if you're trying to do junkie build, same sort of thing. Or if you've got like a junkie melee weapon and you want to do the what are they called, the bloody build for the armor sort of thing, to have like a really strong melee build, that's where that would help as well. Or in general, if you just want to take away some perks and put them somewhere else, because you might have been obviously a rifle build and now you want to be a sniper rifle build, or a commando build, automatic rifles and stuff, and you want to be like a single shot rifle build, stuff like that. It would be really useful, especially for some people. You don't really get too high in the levels. Some people don't. I'm reasonably high in the levels, and that I have, but that's only because I will admit I do farm out XP, but not everyone wants to sit there for hours farming XP. Obviously, again, refundable perks, we can swap them around, would be amazing. Next one, personally my favourite kind of thing, which kind of can take away creativity, because I've done a video a while back on actually how to do this, is rebuildable Minutemen / castle. Now, the Minutemen rebuild stuff I've touched on before, but a rebuildable castle would one way be good, or at least in the bare minimum allow us to get rid of the rubble, because it is a pain. There is plenty of concrete around. There should be some way to actually do that, because obviously it is a pain to try and get around some of it, but then it can make for a really creative way in that one way, trying to clip stuff in, but that also can be pain because sometimes it doesn't. And rebuildable Minutemen, as again, kind of explains itself, but it doesn't make sense with the Minutemen that we could literally take down the Institute, Brotherhood, Steel, and Railroad. Yeah, the Minutemen could be the only sort of faction, so to speak. Obviously, you've still got the Raiders and Gunners, but it doesn't make sense that obviously the castle is their headquarters, and even after finishing the game, as is getting access to vertibirds if you destroy the Brotherhood of Steel, that the Minutemen wouldn't be able to scavenge some weapons and armor to be able to reinforce their rankings, because obviously it's pretty silly, once again, if you're in like levels 100s or whatnot, and you use the flare gun or something, and you get a Minutemen group come out with a couple bits of Minutemen cloth armor and a couple pipe pistols. It's pretty silly that, so there should be a way, some of that we can actually sort of upgrade our Minutemen, whether that be actually bringing back armor and weapons. I don't know if they could do that, or you give so many caps or something. Some sort of thing like that. You give caps and then they can buy the weapons or armor, or you just give resources sort of thing. That'd be pretty cool. And one last one, and this is for pretty much any and all settlements, is an increased settlement limit. So with that specifically, not the settlers, but the actual limit of what you can build. Now there is technically a glitch, but it's a really amazing one, where you essentially drop a heap of weapons in your workshop, and you've got to be in your workshop space for this to work, to my knowledge, and you store them into your workshop, and then it, for some reason, actually lowers down the limit. Now, yes, in one way it can crash the game, but obviously with the next gen stuff, we should be able to obviously build better, because everything should be able to handle it a bit more. But just in general, there have been some builds, I've had to do it personally in some of my settlements, where I want to add a bit of detail to housings, but then I run out of limit, and it's like there's only a couple things I've essentially built, like a couple houses, and I've still got a whole heap of settlers, and then we can't do that. But obviously some settlements, I know the what do you call it, the Spectacle Island, for the example, that I think has the biggest or the second biggest build limit. But same sort of scenario there is you can build big builds, but then you've got to try and do that weapon stuff where you have to essentially drop it and then store it in the workshop, but then it still creates that problem of it's a very time consuming, especially if you're trying to build pretty big stuff. I've done one build a while back, I had to do that like several times, and the game handled it pretty well. I didn't have any crashes in that settlement ever. So yes, some settlements kind of will crash, especially down at Boston. We don't talk about Boston though. Anyone who's been down there knows what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's in general, being able to build a lot more without having to do stuff like that would be amazing, because hopefully that doesn't get patched. That's one thing I will say. Hopefully that's something that they do not patch, because it is an extremely useful sort of glitch for that reason. You can build bigger and better builds. But other than that, hopefully these do get added, or in the very bare minimum, the settlers level and the refundable perks in a lot of ways are personally I think would be the two best things for them to add. May not add any of these, but we can hope maybe in a later update after next gen stuff. Don't know, hopefully they will. But as is, again, better settlers sort of thing limits, and well, I think that's actually a mod, better settlers. But yeah, an increased settler limit on their level, or like an unlimited level cap, would be amazing for, again, that help for defending settlements. other than that, I hope one has enjoyed, and yeah, hopefully these get added, or some other things get added to essentially obviously help with the game for stuff like that, because I've essentially always shied away from using settlers as defenders of settlements, and even turrets I will say are kind of useless. I use robots pretty much to be my walking turrets pretty much. They're the only things I pretty much use for defense nowadays, or a wall. They work wonderful. But anyway, I hope everyone has enjoyed, and I shall see everybody next time.